Hare Krishna. Good evening. We will, yesterday evening, we discussed about forgiveness. That, and we, at the end, we stressed the importance of being able to forgive. If we don't forgive others for their offenses, minor offenses, Prabhupada says, then this aversion and attachment towards this particular person stays in our mind. And as a result, we cannot come in contact with Krishna in our heart. And this is not very compassionate with oneself. It's a lack of self-compassion. Because if we cannot come in contact with Krishna, because we don't love all this part and parcel, then we remain rotating in the cycle of birth and death. And that is not very compassionate to the spirit soul. Therefore, we stressed yesterday the importance to forgive within our heart. Sometimes externally, it's not possible, but at least in our heart, we should forgive. Because the other person brings us a reaction, and the reaction is caused by our actions in previous lives. So we are responsible for the reaction. A person may abuse us, that must be stopped. But the abusive person gives you also the reaction. And we are responsible for it. Therefore, we should not keep any grudge towards anyone in this world. Everything is very temporary, fleeting. You are at the door of a room and you are going outside and you never come inside again. Once you are out, are you still concerned with what's happening in the room? No? Are we still concerned with everything what happened in our previous lives? No, it's all finished. It's all very relative. So, therefore, we spoke yesterday about that. And today, I want to speak about the real meaning of compassion, spiritual compassion. So, before we start, I will read a verse from Bhagavad Gita, and that is the second chapter. In the first chapter of the Gita, Arjuna tells Krishna, I will not fight. I don't want to kill my family members. Although they are aggressors, I don't want to kill them. I don't want to kill my teacher, Dronacharya. Would you kill your teacher, Krishna, Sandipani Muni? No. And we will get sinful reactions, he says, if we kill our family members. That's mentioned in Arthashastra. And Artha Shastra is higher than Dharma Shastra. Dharma Shastra says aggressors should be killed. That so he's playing the role of a Pandit, Arjuna. This Shastra is higher than that Shastra. And he makes further arguments. Yeah, I will not be able to enjoy a kingdom because I want to enjoy the kingdom with Dronacharya, Bhishmadev, with all my family members. If they are dead, or I'm going to enjoy. And the family tradition will be vanquished. Varna Sankara, that will come, that degraded progeny. Arjuna makes so many arguments, and they are all good arguments according to Shastra. Very good arguments. So Arjuna looks a very compassionate person. That in ordinary vision in this world said Arjuna is a very good person. Now in chapter 2, verse 1, that there and verse 2 and following verses, we will hear Krishna's opinion. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Vasudevaya. Sanjaya Vacha Tam Tata Kepaya Vistam Asun Puna Collectionam Vishidantam Idam Vakyam Uvacha Madhusudana. Sanya said, seeing Arjuna full of compassion, his mind depressed, his eyes full of tears, Madhusudan, Krishna, spoke the following words. We will now hear the commentary of A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami, Srila Prabhupada. Material compassion, lamentation, and tears are all signs of ignorance of the real self. Compassion for the eternal soul is self-realization. The word Madhusudan is significant in this verse. Lord Krishna killed the demon Madhu, and now Arjuna wanted to kill the demon of misunderstanding that had taken him in the discharge of his duty. No one knows where compassion should be applied. Compassion for the dress of a drowning man is senseless. A man fallen in the ocean of nations cannot be saved simply by rescuing his outward dress, the gross material body. One who does not know this and laments for the outward dress is called a Sudra, or one who laments unnecessarily. Arjuna was a Kshatriya, and this conduct was not expected from him. Lord Krishna, however, can dissipate the lamentation of the ignorant man, and for this purpose the Bhagavad Gita was sung by him. This chapter instructs us in self-realization and analytical study of the material body and the spirit soul as explained by the Supreme Authority. Lord Krishna, this realization is possible when one works without attachment to the fruitive results and is situated in the fixed conception of the real self. This is Prabhupada's purport. And then we will, in the next verses, Krishna speaks. And he uses very hard words to chastise Arjuna. Om Ajnana Timandasya Janan Shalaka Shakshurmitam Yena Tasmai Shigurave Namah Chaitanyamanopistam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swam Rupakadamayam Dadati Svapadantikam Vandeham Shiyu Shiyuda Padkamalam Shigum Vaishnavamsha Shri Rupam Sagajatam Saganaragnatam Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savaduktam Parjana Saitam Sri Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sankalita Shivishakam Vitam Sha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandho Chat Pate Kopesha Kopka Kanta Radha Kanta Namastate Tapta Kansana Gauragira Devindavanaspri Vishabhana Sutta Devi Pranamama Hripriye Pancha Kalptrubhisha Kripasin Vaivasha Patnam Pavanabhyo Vaishnavyo Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaura Bhaktavinda Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prastaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Namini. Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Vacharini. Nirvishesha Sinyavadi Paskachai Satani. Srila Prabhupada Ki. So Arjuna has, from a mundane viewpoint, made very many arguments that make him look like a very compassionate person, a good person. But there are a few points to consider here. Arjuna is a military man, is a military commander, a royal king. And it was his duty to punish those who are transgressing the scriptures, the laws of nature. That Arjuna, because it's mentioned in the Shastras, Dharma Shastras, that transgressors should be killed, especially those who are trying to kill you, those who are burning your house, those who try to poison you, those who try to harm the wife, try to kidnap her or whatever. And the Gurus had done all of these things. So it was his duty as a Kshatriya to punish them. And it's like a police officer. A police officer is going to the street and he sees someone breaking in a house, and he looks very careful, and he sees, oh, that is the son of this person. And I know his mother very well. If I'm going to arrest him, he will get a criminal record. He will never get a job. He will, and his mother will be very hurt by it. That she will suffer from it. So the police officer said, I look at the other way. I'm not going to arrest him. Is that a good police officer? No. So Arjuna had to do his duty. It was his duty. And he plays a role as a pandit. He says, yes, Dharma Shastra says transgressors should be killed. But Arthashastra says family members should not be killed. That's sinful. And Arthashastra is higher than Dharma Shastra. It's like you have at the crossroads, you have traffic lights. And traffic lights are going from green to orange, red, back to green. But then suddenly a police officer is situating himself in the middle of the crossroad, and he starts to regulate the traffic. And so a man comes at the crossroad and it's red. But the police officer said, come, this side, come. And the man in the car said, no, it's red. Who has priority? The police officer. So Arjuna is arguing based on Shastra. But there Krishna says you have to fight. Who is higher? All the Shastras of Krishna? So that is an issue. But the point is what is the value of Arjuna's compassion? And so that brings the point of that brings out the question: what is real compassion? I remember this is nearly 20 years ago. This was in Mumbai, at the Festival of Tibet, Mumbai, 2001. That's 24 years ago. There you had, who was present there? The Dalai Lama. And the Dalai Lama spoke about compassion. He says, no, compassion, it's wrong. Compassion need not to be based on religion, he said. It's part of human life. Irrespective of whether you are a believer or a non-believer, trying to be a warm-hearted person is essential. It has nothing to do with religion, nothing to do with philosophy. Just without a sense of caring and concern, you cannot be a happy person. Is that compassion? Who thinks that is a form of compassion? Is that compassion? To what extent are these words of the Dalai Lama? To what extent do they constitute compassion? What's the logic and the values behind this statement? And if it is compassion, is it the highest form of compassion? Is there compassion on a deeper level? We will look at it. What does the dictionary say about compassion? Someone know? The dictionary I consulted says that compassion is a sense of shared suffering. A kind of empathy with a special kindness for those who are suffering. The Bible speaks also about compassion. The Bible, and not only in the Bible, you find that practically in all religions, and that's called the golden rule. One who has gold rules, but that's not what it means. Golden rule. That's it means that one should treat others in a way one like to be treated oneself. That is that a form of compassion? If you look deeper at it, it may result in very uncompassionate results. That if you apply this golden rule, because I like to be drunk. I like that someone offers me alcohol and I get drunk. So I want also others to treat like that. So that's this golden rule if the person acts wrongly, it becomes very uncompassionate. There are many ethical viewpoints one can take on compassion. We will not go into that. But then there is compassion for the soul. And that is what we hear here, but what Prabhupada writes in the purport here. Material compassion are tears, and tears are all signs of ignorance of the real self. Because that is what Lord Krishna will teach Arjuna. You think you can kill your grandfather, Bhishmadev, but the soul cannot be slain. You cannot kill him. You can only kill his body. This does not mean that we can start killing, but Prabhupada writes, compassion for the soul is self-realization. Self-realization is liberation from the cycle of birth, death, old age, disease. And this material compassion and tears are all signs of ignorance of the real self. In 2016, I was in Leicester in the hospital, and my godbrother, Amsagati Krishna Prabhu, also a disciple of Bhakti Charamaj, who left this world a few years later, invited me to come to the hospital at the moment his mother would leave her body. And his mother, she had 8 children, which she brought in this world in Kenya. And Kenya, there were original Gujaratis who were 100 years before they came to Africa to build the British, help to build the British railways. Because they were all British colonies. And we know in 1972 at a certain moment, Idi Amin in Zambia said these Indians, they are destroying our economy. I give them, was a dictator, Idi Amin. He said, 2 months I give them to leave the country. And they had all British passports. So I arrived as a child. I've seen that in news 1972, 1973. They arrived with 120,000 at Heathrow in London. And many settled around London, certain parts of London, like Hora and other places, and in Leicester and in Manchester, some of them. And they were one of them. So she came with her 8 children to Leicester. And I was there in the hospital when she was going to leave her body. I was at her feet at the bed just before her. And she was hearing Prabhupada chanting that. And my godbrother said to all his family members, and there were about 30 in the room, a big family. When she said, when mother gives her last breath, it's a saintly moment. Don't cry. Don't cry. And I looked at her the moment she was leaving her body, and she gave a sign with her eyebrows, and her last breath came out. And immediately, all these 30 family members started to cry very loudly, although he told them, don't do. That crying, does that help someone? Who is going to help that? All that crying, that lamentation, and these tears? No one. That if one understands one is a spirit soul, there's no question of lamentation. The person is going to get a new body, a much better body than before. That and happy to give up this old body. But no, their material compassion are tears, are signs of the ignorance of the real self. And compassion for the eternal soul is self-realization. That means compassion for the soul, compassion with our own soul, is that we advance in spiritual life and do everything needed. That becomes our priority. Then we are compassionate with ourselves, because the body is like a dress of the soul. And one does not lament for the outward dress, but how to define real compassion, showing concern for the welfare of the body or for the well-being of the soul. That last week we had Nrsimha Chaturdasi, and probably you have heard some of the prayers of Prahlad Maharaj, the Lord Nrsimha Deva. Prahlad Maharaj, he praised the Lord Nrsimha Deva. Now kindly look upon us, not only upon me, but also all the others who are suffering. And by your causeless mercy and compassion, deliver us and maintain us. Now, what do we learn here from Prahlad Maharaj? That he does not only pray for himself, he prays to the Lord to show his compassion, to deliver all others, and maintain all other suffering living entities. So this kind of compassion is not only empathy or shared suffering. There's an active element here that actually Prahlad Maharaj wants to help those who is feeling compassionate for. So it's not only an idea of warm-hearted, loving kindness, that or wishing happiness for the welfare of others. No. That's Prahlad's compassion has the quality of wishing that others become free from material suffering. And not only for himself, for all living entities. So we can understand if we engage in Prabhupada's mission, try to spread Krishna consciousness, try to give it to others. That will make them free from suffering. But genuine compassion requires self-realization, spiritual vision, and intelligence. 3 things just to understand what spiritual compassion is. Self-realization, spiritual vision, and intelligence. That the intelligence, understanding the transient nature of material existence. Everything is very temporary. That and the knowledge that the living entity is the soul, and it's different from the material covering, which we see as a gross and subtle body. It requires spiritual vision. That so the ultimate nature of reality is that the sufferings of the eternal living souls are due to their misidentification with the bodies. That and by that, so in Bhagavad Gita, Krishna explains how the spirit soul, through contaminated consciousness, contacts the material energy. And that's explained in the 13th chapter of the Gita. What is the problem? The problem is Bhukti Prakati Jan Guna, trying to exploit material nature. That's the cause. And due to that, Karanam Guna Sangrasya, you go to one body after another. That transmigration from one body to another. So material compassion compassion for the body will not liberate one from transmigration from one body to another. And will not liberate one from continuous suffering to various forms of life. But spiritual compassion aims at spiritualizing the consciousness of the living entity. That because we are the consciousness that it should be recognized. We are the consciousness. That consciousness is now polluted. And like it's a different vision. Like one devotee said to another, "You were not in the Bhagavatam class this morning." And the devotee replied, "Yes, I was there. I was sitting there at the back." And the other devotee said, "Yes, I could see that your body was there, but your consciousness was somewhere else. So you were not there." So we chant the Hare Krishna mantra, but if our consciousness is in making our shopping list while we're chanting, we are not chanting. We are not there. So that's another vision of seeing the reality of our real self. Because consciousness is a symptom of the presence of the soul. And spiritualization or purification of our consciousness will bring us back to its original position. What is our original position? Krishna says, Mamaivam Suchiveduka Shiva Bhuta Sanatana, Bhagavad Gita 15:7. We are a part and parcel of Krishna. Because we are a part and parcel of Krishna, we are a servant of Krishna. The part and parcel must be connected with the whole. Otherwise, if we are disconnected, then we are in material consciousness. If we are connected, we are in spiritual consciousness. Because the soul is Antaranga Shakti, is the spiritual energy, the higher energy. And Krishna is also spiritual energy, but the source of all spiritual energy. If we are not connected with Krishna, then we will be connected with the material energy. There is nothing between. We are either Krishna conscious or material conscious. But if we connect again, then we realize we are a servant of Krishna, a servant who serves Krishna with love. It's the devotion that makes the connection. So it reconnects us in our relationship with Krishna. And this, if we make this connection, we are like as King Rishabhadev says, Brahma Sakyam Vanantam, then you experience unending ecstatic happiness. And that's a normal condition that the Vedanta Sutra says, Ananda Maya Vyasat. We are made for happiness, this happiness of connecting with Krishna, not a material happiness. Material happiness is practically no happiness, it's absence of suffering. So you have two elements here that we learn: compassion for the body, compassion for the soul. The first thing to be compassionate is that we must understand that suffering is inherent in a life of sense gratification. If you live for sense gratification, Krishna says, you live in vain. 3:17 Bhagavad Gita. You live in vain for nothing. Because you forget your soul. The Bible says, and Prabhupada quotes the Bible in that regard. He says, "What profited a man if one gains the entire world, but loses what? The consciousness of his eternal soul." But let's go back to Prahlad Maharaj. He prays to Lord Nrsimhadev. My concern is only for the fools and rascals who are making elaborate plans for material happiness and maintaining their families, societies, and countries. I'm simply concerned with love for them. So he feels compassion for those who are after Maya Sukha, the material happiness. Because what's the reaction? Why do we suffer in our lives? Krishna says in 5:22, Ye samsparsaya bhuga dukha yona evatel tyantavante kantya nate shuramate buddha. The learned men have concluded that one who engages in sense gratification, the result is suffering. So why do we suffer in this life? We have in previous life engaged in sense gratification. That's the reaction. That's one of the causes of our suffering in this life. And one must take birth again to receive the reaction. And everyone is making elaborate plans for material happiness. You can go to school, can get a master's in business administration, setting up systems to get the highest profit with the least effort. So you become expert in exploiting on a big scale. So he said, I'm only concerned with love for them. So compassion develops only, real compassion develops only when we are free from this illusion that this bodily comfort is the same as happiness. But such happiness is just an absence of suffering, just as eating, you eat and you get rid of the pain in your stomach, which is called hunger. It is not contemplation, yeah, that it is not contemplation of various sufferings of the living entities that is going to make us compassionate, but rather spiritual knowledge is required to increase our understanding of what compassion means for the soul. That Prabhupada had a dialogue with a Christian cardinal discussing the issue of meat eating. The cardinal's conviction was that human life is sacred, but that of animals not. Therefore, animals can be killed to feed man. Of course, this statement, Prabhupada said, contradicts the fifth commandment of the Christian, which says, "Thou shalt not kill." They turned it in, "Thou shalt not murder," but that is not what it says. I did research how Christian theologians justify this contradiction. It's going back to the 3rd century, St. Augustine. And St. Augustine says, yeah, there are two types of souls, animal souls and human souls. And says, human souls have intelligence and animal souls have something that resemble intelligence. And therefore they are of a lower status and they can be killed. But that's not in the Christian scriptures. That's made up by these theologians. Just to allow others to kill animals. That this is Augustine. But according to Bhagavad Gita, the soul in a plant, an animal, or a human form is of the same quality. They are all spiritual fragmental parts of the Lord. But their subtle body, their intelligence is less developed. But gradually it goes to different animal species back to the human life. In the human life, it's again fully developed. Because that's mentioned in Bhagavad Gita, the soul is covered by different degrees of ignorance in the form of lust. According to Bhagavad Gita, compassion that does not rise above the bodily identification may be very counterproductive, because it prevents to attain the aim to be liberated, the aim of attaining liberation for the soul. The soul is materially entangled. Such body compassion neglects the real causes, why the living entities are suffering. Now, it is philosophy, but to understand that, we need qualifications. Qualifications to understand the nature of real compassion. You must be qualified. So when And we see this qualification Prahlad Maharaj. When Lord Nrsingadev he offered his prayers to Lord Nrsingadev, because after killing Hiranyakashipu, Lord Nrsingadev was very angry. And all the demigods could not appease him. So Brahma pushed forward Prahlad and said, he appeared for you, you go and you pacify him. And Prahlad went, offered his dandavats and prayers. And when he offered his dandavats, immediately Lord Nrsingadev's anger cooled down. And he took Prahlad on his lap and touched his head. And then Prahlad offered his beautiful prayers. And that's a whole chapter, that's chapter 9 in the 7th canto. And the beginning of, at the end, after the prayers, Lord Nrsingadev is offering benedictions to Prahlad. He says to Prahlad, you can ask me whatever you want, I will give it to you. Many people would like that. God comes to you and say, you ask whatever you want, I will give it to you. But Prahlad, however, did not feel anxious to accept the Lord's offer, because all these benedictions and the body concept of life, that therefore Prahlad said, my dear Lord, O Supreme Personality of Godhead, because I was born in an atheistic family, I'm not really attached to material enjoyment. Therefore, kindly do not tempt me with these illusions. Because I'm very much afraid of material conditions, and I desire to be liberated from materialistic life. It is for this reason that I have taken shelter of your lotus feet. So these are the qualifications. He says, I don't want this sense gratification. These are illusions. It's going to entangle me further. And he says, I'm very much afraid of that. And that's important. Like the Prabhupada said many times about his American disciples, there's one problem with these American disciples. They are not afraid enough of Maya. So we must cultivate this awareness of this sense gratification, to be very careful. When you see opportunities for sense gratification, it's in Bhagavad Gita said, one must become like a kurma, a tortoise, who withdraws his limbs in the shell immediately. So he said, I'm very much afraid of material conditions. And the second thing is, I desire to be liberated from materialistic life. Who desires to be liberated from materialistic life? Lord Chaitanya was touring in South Africa somewhere, and a Brahmin cursed him. He said, you will never be able to enjoy anything material in your life. And Lord Chaitanya was so happy with this curse. But of course, Lord Chaitanya is Krishna himself, but Prahlad Maharaj says, I desire to be liberated from this materialistic life. I don't want this sense gratification. That we see in the 6th canto of the Bhagavatam, the near-death experience of Ajamila. And he sees this vision, he sees these Vishnu Dutas, these Yamadutas, and they are talking. The Yamadutas try to snatch his soul and his subtle body to punish him for his sinful activities. And the Vishnu Duta said, no, he's sinless. He chanted the holy name of Krishna. After having this experience, of this near-death experience, Jamil had three benedictions. First, he saw these Vishnu Duttas, which are like Krishna. You cannot forget them anymore. Second, his life was prolonged. But the third benediction is he heard his dialogue and he woke up. He understood what the result was of his life of sense gratification. And he came to the point, he made a determination, and that's the third benediction. I will never do these sinful activities again. I will never engage in this sense gratification anymore. And that, so he came also to that point he desired to be liberated from this material life. And we must also come to that, to develop that desire. And we develop that desire by hearing, especially the Bhagavatam. The Bhagavatam gives us the result of such materialistic life. And we see how Krishna, many devotees described in the Bhagavatam, how he makes arrangements so that they come to realize this. Like the Avanta Brahmin in the 11th canto, very beautiful story. But then the next qualification, Prahlad said, it is for this reason that I've taken shelter at your lotus feet. Third qualification. You must take shelter of Krishna. Without taking shelter of Krishna, without surrendering of Krishna, you will not be able to understand these things. Understanding this and realizing this comes only by the mercy of Krishna, the Dhammi Buddhi Yogam Tam. Krishna gives realization to the heart. Tesham em van de kampertam amma jnana jamtama nasa jamatma babastu jnana tipana pashvata. With the lamp of knowledge, I enter the heart of my devotee, and I take away the ignorance. So that happens only when you take shelter of the Supreme Lord. So Prahlad understood this. All these materialistic endeavors cannot make one happy. He realized that only pure devotional service, without any material motivation, pure devotional service to the Supreme Lord is the cause of the satisfaction of my heart. It is a source of unending happiness. And this material opulence cannot give happiness to the heart. About 20 years ago in the United States, a man won the lottery, and he received at that time $360 million. After receiving the news, he was accompanied by his pet granddaughter. He flew to New York to collect the money. Back home, he found out that he had suddenly more friends than before. Even a cousin in the third grade family lineage, whom he had not seen since birth, showed up. Although he was visited by so many people, he felt lonely, dissatisfied. He realized that the new friends were all after his money, and that their relationship were only based on material gain. In the meantime, I started to spend money lavishly, especially for the benefit of his 16-year-old pet granddaughter. He bought her 3 cars and arranged for a meeting with our favorite rap singer. And somewhat later, relatives, friends, school friends, and others started complaining about his granddaughter's arrogant character. She was proud, egoistic, showed egoistic behavior, And finally, she died at an overdose of drugs. And that day, the man cursed the day that he ever won the lottery, as it brought him only unhappiness. There was another case. This is a poor man with 3 children, also in the United States. And one day he won $65 million in the lottery, only 65. And he was a church-going believer. And when he heard that he had won the lottery, he said, "Hallelujah." He accepted as the mercy of the Lord, as a fulfillment of his prayers. And when he got the money, he bought 6 houses and distributed them to the church and his family members. However, some months later, his relatives started to fight with each other by claiming individual rights on the properties. This ruined all existing family relationships, and the situation became so intolerable that he committed suicide. The day before he died, he told his final advisors that he regretted ever having won the money. There are so many examples of that. The more houses you have, the more possessions, the more problems. That's all. But self-compassion starts with understanding our attachment to material assets is really a dangerous illusory energy. That if one understands that, one can begin to develop real compassion. One can gradually fulfill these requirements and progressively realize unalloyed pure devotional service. Therefore, Prahlad Maharaj, he praised the Lord Nrsimhadev. He says, "My dear Lord, O Supreme Great, you have created this material world of 16 constituents, but you are transcendental to their material qualities. In other words, these material qualities are under your full control, and you are never conquered by them. Therefore, the time elephant is your representation, my Lord. My Lord, O Supreme, no one can conquer you. As for me, however, I've been crushed by the wheel of time, and therefore I am surrendering fully unto you. Now kindly take me under the protection of your lotus feet." So he saw his father, Hiranyakasipu. He possessed the whole universe. Everything was under his control. And in 1 second, finished. All finished. Therefore he says, "I've seen it, crushed by the wheel of time." Finished. So Prahlad Maharaj is comparing the illusory energy to a crushing stone that destroys everything. And it's unsurpassable time. And therefore, he decided to surrender to the Supreme Personality of Godhead for protection. All our plans in this material world will be crushed, finished. It's all temporary. Therefore, don't strive for it. Just take what you have, what you need to have a simple life, simple living, high thinking, and take to devotional service. Surrender to Krishna. What does it mean, surrender? Follow his instructions. Therefore, it's good to learn Bhagavad Gita. This is the basis of his instructions. We want to love Krishna. Are we interested what he has to say? We want to. That, like, Prabhupada gives you an example. A young girl and a young boy, they meet for the first time. Love at the first sight. Do you think the boy has difficulty to memorize the mobile number of the girl? No. He's very eager. So if we want to love Krishna, are we eager to know what he has to say to us? That we should take Bhagavad Gita very serious and try to understand its words. It's not that you have to memorize everything, but try to understand what he says to us and what he expects us to do. And study Prabhupada's purport, who explains how to bring it in practice. So that's the beginning of self-compassion. That to become compassionate for others, first you must be self-compassion. You go into the airplane, they explain if the mask drops, first help yourself and then others. The same principle. That we must free ourselves from this illusion, the ignorance that covers the conditioned souls. What is this ignorance that covers us? This is explained in the Bhagavatam. Lord Brahma, before starting his Visarga, before starting his work of creating living entities, before doing that, he creates a material atmosphere in which the conditioned soul functions. And these are different layers of illusion. And the first layer is called tamas. Tamas means one forgets Krishna, and by forgetting Krishna, one forgets one's own identity. That's the cause. It's called tamas. And because we have forgotten our spiritual identity, then moha comes. You misidentify with the body. And when you misidentify with the body, you think, this is mine, this is for my enjoyment. So that is called mahamoha, big illusion. And when you think, this is mine, this is my car, new car, someone just bought new car, you are attached to, that's my car. Someone makes a little crash in it, and you feel pain, because it's my car. When it happens to someone else's car, I don't take care. But my car, then it becomes serious. That is tamishra, fear of losing one's possessions, fear of losing relationships when someone dies and so on. That fear is there. And finally, there is andatamisha, thinking death comes, I'm finished. That's the last illusion. So, real compassion means developing a desire to purify one's consciousness and to remove these illusions, and be again situated in one eternal spiritual identity as a servant of Krishna. And so this desire of purification is very important. It's a divine quality. 16th chapter of Bhagavad Gita, Abhaya Sattva Samsudir. Sattva Samsudir. Purification for one existence. In the 5th chapter of the Gita is also mentioned that one should use one's intelligence, one's mind, one's senses, one's body, all one's convictions for purification of one's existence. The yogi acts only for the sake of purification. Then that should become our business. Removing these illusions and become again situated in one's spiritual identity as a servant of Krishna. And also Prahlad Maharaj expresses this desire for purification. He says, that's this verse, Namaste Narasingaya, Namaste Asya Vevava Vachanaka Vachanadam Skamasyam Randai Randai Rasurasa Abhayam Abhyamatmi Bhyusti Om Shram. He says, "Oh my Lord, who possesses nails and teeth just like thunderbolts." So you have these sharp nails, he says, like chisels, that vanquish our demon-like desires for fruitive activity in this world. Please appear in our heart and drive away our ignorance, so that by your mercy we may become fearless in the struggle for existence in the material world. So he's saying, now, Lord Nrsimhadev, you have these sharp nails, go into my heart and take everything away. Take all these impurities, these illusions away from my heart. That Prabhupada writes in the purport, or in a lecture, he says, every devotee should learn to pray like this. One should have the courage to pray like this. Take away these illusions from my heart, these impurities. Do the operation now. But mostly, we cannot pray wholeheartedly. We say to Krishna, yes, it's good, but not right now. I have still so many plans. But these plans are just plans in illusion. That we think we are going to be happy. But you cannot be happy in this world. It's always distraught with distress. It's mixed. A little happiness and a lot of distress. But when all these impurities are gone, you become fearless. You have attained self-realization. You identify with your spiritual body, and you forget your even awareness of the material body if you come to the stage of bhava and prema. That the spiritual is eternal. It's never will it undergo death. And if we come to that self-compassion, then we can be compassionate for others. That realizing the truth of one's spiritual identity is favorable for developing spiritual compassion. That some Buddhists, they say compassion is a non-violent state of mind. But Prabhupada explains compassion by people in general are entrapped by ignorance. By ignorance in the material concept of life. And they perpetually suffer material pain. So unless one elevates people to spiritual knowledge, one is practicing violence. That's a strong statement. One should try his best to distribute real knowledge to the people so that they may become enlightened and leave this material entanglement. Yeah. So Prabhupada says, distribution of spiritual knowledge, preaching, is the same as spiritual compassion. Therefore, Prahlad Maharaj said, Kamara acharet prapahyo dharamam bhartamam dulabam manusham tyam yam tapya dhruvam artadam. He says, one should cultivate Krishna consciousness from the Kamara age, 5 years old, because the human form of life is very rarely attained. So Prahlad Maharaj advises to educate children from childhood, engage them in spiritual activities. If one regains his original spiritual consciousness as a spirit soul and is absorbed in thoughts of Krishna, then one comes to the ultimate reality. And then feelings of compassion will spontaneously flow from the heart, spontaneously. And that is what Prahlad Maharaj explains. My concern is only for the fools and rascals who are making elaborate plans for material happiness and maintaining their families, societies, and countries. But that means if we come to pure devotional service, Anya Bilasta Sunyam, Jnanam Kamadanavitam, Ankulyena Krishna Nusilnam Bhaktir Uttama. Pure devotional service is trying to please Krishna favorably, without any material motivation. Then if we practice that, that will destroy the root of material desire, and it will not reappear again. So that is an introduction to the meaning of spiritual compassion. Any questions, comments, corrections? Everything clear? Yeah.
I have a question. Spiritual compassion has to support your sadhana, basically. And we have to weigh the situation where sadhana should not get impacted. And I have been asking this a couple of times, for the past couple of days.
Yeah.
But how to sometimes in a situation, how to handle it practically? Maybe something we have to repeat, but I would like to hear it again.
Yeah, but I think this, because we are strongly covered by the illusory energy, especially when we are out of association of devotees. And that, when you were speaking, I was thinking out about Prabhupada it's a verse in the 5th chapter of the 1st canto. In the commentary, he writes, yes, if neighbors may be of a different culture and may speak a different language, which they don't understand. But if there is fire in the house, the neighbors will automatically come and help to put out the fire. There's no language needed. They understand the necessity. So in the same way, if we hear the Bhagavatam clearly, we start to understand, I'm in trouble. I'm in trouble. And I can only get out of it by the mercy of Krishna. So that will support one's sadhana. positively. If one thinks everything is all right, and yes, my family, there is some suffering, but okay, everything goes well. I don't need Krishna, and but then there's no impetus for spiritual life. One need to understand I'm in trouble. I'm here because I'm a fool. I'm a big fool. That because I'm here because I want to enjoy without Krishna. That I've rejected this, I've rebelled against him, and I'm here now in difficulty. And only Krishna can get me out. And that is reality. That therefore Krishna says, surrender to me. In the 18th chapter, Krishna gives there two options that he says, if you do not act according to my direction and do not fight, then you will be falsely directed by your nature, and you will have to be engaged in warfare. But he says, if you become conscious of me, you will pass over all the obstacles of conditioned life by my grace. If, however, you do not work in such consciousness, but act to false ego, not hearing me, you will be lost. So there's nothing between. Either we become conscious of Krishna and we transcend all obstacles, or we act as being the body to false ego. But there's nothing between. Only Krishna can get us out of here. And if that consciousness does not develop, we don't have the urgency. This illusion is very strong, these 5 illusions that I mentioned. That forgetting Krishna and forgetting one's spiritual identity. And then one thinks oneself the body and the enjoyer. One then thinks this is mine, and because of these attachments, one suffers. And finally, one thinks I'm going to die. These are very deep illusions. That and these couple things are very thick. But when one hears from self-realized souls this Bhagavad Gita and these teachings, we get an opening. For a moment, we understand. And then the class is over, it closes again. We forget, we are again into the illusion, I'm the body. And that is the reality. But you can keep the opening open by having a good sadhana in the association of devotees and daily hear the Bhagavatam. That if we are not connected, the Bhagavatam is Krishna, the chanting of the holy name is Krishna. That the deity worship, the deity is Krishna. That so these are all spiritual objects in this world. And by connecting with them, Krishna has given the holy name and all the scriptures and so on to help us to come out of this illusion. But we need a spiritual master to help us. And if we do that, if we see the urgency, if we become serious in spiritual life. So, Prabhupada used the word sincere. That if we become sincere, we take Krishna consciousness as the goal of our life. That becomes a priority. If it's not a priority, one does not come out of illusion. It's not possible. It must become the priority. We may have many goals, many desires, but that should be the primary desire. And that is a reality. If we come together, like today, we get an idea that you should regularly come together and hear the scriptures. And surely, we understand this urgency that we have to come out of the material comfort zone. That if we are in a material comfort zone, then we think everything is all right. And Krishna say, okay, that's what you want. So it's up to us to take up spiritual life serious, take it serious. And especially today we learn compassion for others. Starts with compassion for oneself. If you feel compassion for yourself, for the spiritual self, naturally, this compassion for others will grow. But it can always also in the other way. If you distribute Prabhupada's books and helps to preach, Krishna will give you realization and bring you out of illusion. That we need mercy. Mercy comes to the spiritual master. Mercy comes from Krishna. Does that help? Yeah. And anything else? Good. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna. Jai Prabhupada.
Bhakti Prabhupada.